Most people think myths are dead. We treat stories of gods, monsters, and ancient beings as entertainment campfire tales or movie plots. We believe our world of science, data, and concrete logic has moved on. But what if we're wrong? What if myths never died? What if they just adapted? They changed their forms, shed their old skins, and quietly slipped into the very systems we believe we built ourselves. This isn't a fantasy, this is a warning. In 2024, historian Myra Dane, a brilliant but overlooked academic, was studying ancient folklore across 50 different cultures. She wasn't looking for monsters. She was looking for patterns, cultural overlaps, shared human stories. But what she found was something else entirely. A disturbing thread connecting them all, a single terrifying conclusion. Mythical creatures didn't vanish. They became the architects of our modern world, hidden, silent, and far more real than we could ever imagine. And they are still walking among us. Her first discovery was something she called the Whisper Forgers. In Old Norse texts, she found references to invisible creatures known as the Murmur Folk. These beings didn't wield swords or command armies. Their power was far more subtle. They whispered ideas directly into the minds of kings and chieftains, guiding entire kingdoms with messages whose origins were completely unknown. A king would wake up with a sudden, unshakable urge to declare war, or a queen would feel a divine inspiration to build a new city. Everyone called it wisdom or revelation. No one suspected the whispers. Myra saw this exact pattern playing out today, right in front of her eyes. She tracked politicians who made shocking, overnight reversals on policies they had championed for years. She investigated CEOs of massive corporations who credited their most disruptive, market-shattering ideas to a sudden revelation or a gut feeling. She mapped out global economic collapses that seemed to defy all logic, as if pushed by an unseen hand. The data didn't make sense. The human behavior was irrational. Unless something else was pulling the strings. One night, working late in her dimly lit university office, surrounded by stacks of ancient books and glowing screens, Myra felt a sudden, inexplicable chill. The air grew heavy in a cold breeze, impossible in the sealed room, brushed past the back of her neck. Her laptop screen flickered violently. Strange notifications flashed across her screen in languages she didn't recognize, ancient, forgotten scripts. And then she heard it, a whisper. Not in her ear, but inside her head. A voice that was both ancient and new, saying, "We build what you think you build." The voice was gone as quickly as it came, leaving her in a cold sweat, staring at the blank screen, the silence of the office now feeling thick and watchful. The second category of beings Myra uncovered was even more unsettling. She called them the fleshless engineers. Almost every culture has a myth about them, though they go by different names. In ancient Egypt, they were the Nakal, skeletal artisans who supposedly built the inner chambers of the pyramids. In Himalayan myths, they were the wire eaters, spirits that lived inside veins of ore. In early American folklore, they were the iron husk walkers, said to haunt the railroad tracks under a full moon. Despite their different origins, Myra found uncanny similarities between them all. They were beings of bone, metal, and stone. They were obsessed with structure, with systems, with the cold, hard logic of how things connect. And most importantly, they always hid beneath the surface. They moved through tunnels, caves, and unseen pathways. They controlled the things humans believed they had invented: aqueducts, roadways, and later, pipes, wires, and the flow of data. Myra's research led her to a coded map hidden within a 16th century alchemical text. It pointed to an abandoned subway line deep beneath a major city, a line that had been sealed off for decades due to geological instability. Armed with a flashlight and a healthy dose of academic curiosity, or perhaps obsession, she found a way in. The official story said it should have been empty, silent, and decaying. It was anything but. Down in the suffocating darkness, the tunnel walls seemed to be breathing. A low, rhythmic hum pulsed through the concrete like a massive, sleeping heart. The walls themselves felt warm to the touch. This wasn't decay. It was alive. As she ventured deeper, she saw it. Something was moving inside the concrete walls. Not an animal, not a person. It was a shape, shifting behind a thin layer of plaster. Then a section of the wall crumbled away, and a figure stepped out. It was tall and skeletal, but not made of bone. Its form was a grotesque assembly of rebar, tangled copper wires, and fragments of concrete. Its jaw, a rusted piece of metal, creaked open, but no sound came out. It didn't need to speak. The lights in the tunnel, long dead, began to flicker in a rhythmic pattern. It was a code. And with a jolt of ice-cold terror, Myra recognized it. It was a signaling pattern described in a 1,000-year-old myth about communicating with the earthbound gods. The flickering lights spelled out a simple, bone-chilling message. We keep the world functioning while you sleep. We rely on our infrastructure, our internet, our power grids every single day, never questioning how they truly work. We think we are their masters, but these beings suggested we are just their temporary residents. The final piece of Myra's research was perhaps the most personal, the most invasive. She called them the dream shapers. In old folklore, these were the shadow children, the nightmare spirits, the illusions that tricked tired travelers. They were the monster under the bed, the face in the dark window. But Myra's research showed they had evolved. Humans today don't really fear monsters in the closet anymore. Our fears have become more abstract, more internal. We fear failure, we fear loneliness, we fear time running out. We fear not being good enough. The dream shapers simply changed their hunting grounds. They didn't hide in the dark corners of the room anymore. They started hiding in the dark corners of our minds. Myra found evidence that these entities had become the architects of our internal worlds. They shape our dreams, they amplify our anxieties. They craft the social trends that make us feel inadequate. They whisper the insecurities that keep us awake at night. The collective dread, the viral anxieties, the waves of panic or euphoria that sweep across society with no logical cause. Myra believed this was their work. They had moved from haunting our houses to haunting our very consciousness. Myra Dane's final discovery was never published. Her colleagues found her office unlocked, the door slightly ajar. Her notebook was left open on her desk, the last few pages filled with frantic, barely legible handwriting. The final entry read, "They're not ancient. They're ongoing. Every myth was a warning, not a story. They told us what was already here. We didn't grow past them. We just built our world on top of them, and we let them in." Below that last, desperate sentence was a hand-drawn symbol. It was a simple spiral, a shape that no single culture could claim, and yet a shape that almost all of them had drawn at some point in their history. It was a universal signature. As for Myra, her apartment was found empty. There was no sign of a struggle, no goodbye note, nothing was out of place. It was as if she had simply evaporated. The only clue was a single audio file left on her laptop's desktop, recorded by the internal microphone. For several minutes, it's just the ambient sound of her empty apartment. Then a faint, dry whisper cuts through the silence, a voice that sounds like rustling leaves and cracking stone. It says one thing: reality is not yours alone. The file ends there, or it almost does. If you turn the volume all the way up and listen to the final seconds of silence, you can hear another sound. It's faint, but it's there. A quiet, rhythmic scratching, like a pen on paper, as if someone or something was rewriting her research from the other side. Thank you for watching. If this story made you think, hit that subscribe button. You never know what's hiding just beneath the surface.